Greetings to all. BA program with economics as major discipline, semester 3. The syllabus begins with the second chapter of Hahn-Varian's intermediate microeconomics. And the second chapter deals with budget constraint, which is too basic. All these concepts, we have already gone through all these with our previous classes. So let's start. Chapter 2, Budget Constraint. The economic theory of a consumer is very simple because economists assume that the consumer wants to consume or choose best bundle of goods that they can afford. Here, the best bundle and can afford are two terms which have to be described more precisely, and our whole syllabus revolves around this. In this chapter, we deals how to describe what a consumer can afford, and in the next chapter, we'll examine how a consumer determines the best bundle. So, budget constraint. So, what is a budget constraint? For the convenience, we just consider here two goods. And a budget constraint is which considers two goods in the life of a consumer which cost in respect of his or her income. So first we need to look consumption bundle, that is X1 and X2, like two goods here are X1 and X2. So it's just simply a list of two goods that tells how much the consumer is choosing to consume of good 1 and good 2. So if it's X1 and X2, we can denote it simply by a single symbol like a big capital X. And this is what a budget constraint looks like. P1 X1 plus P2 X2 lesser than or equal to M. So here X1 and X2 are the goods and P1 and P2 the prices of the goods respectively. M is the income of the consumer. And all the bundles which come within the income of the consumer are named as affordable consumption bundles, and the set of affordable consumption bundles at prices P1, P2 and income M is the budget set. And if here there is no lesser than sign, that is if the bundles are equal to M, if the bundles, consumption bundles exhaust the income of the consumer, we can say it in that terms. If it is equal to M, if it costs exactly the income of the consumer, it is named as budget line. Okay. And next section deals with the two good assumption. There is nothing much to describe on that. So we studied of this budget constraint P1 X1 plus P2 X2 lesser than or equal to M. But here P2 is missing, right? So it is because the good 2 is considered as a composite good. That means if X1 is milk or cloth or whatever, for the time being we can consider the good 1 as milk. Then X2 will be all the goods that the consumer might want to consume other than milk, other than good 1. Okay, so the X2 does not denote any specific good, but everything else other than good 1 that the consumer want to consume. So as it is not a specific good and it denotes everything else, there is no need of price, right? Because in other terms we can say X2 is the amount of money which the consumer is ready to spend on every other good other than good 1, other than milk. So we can denote P2 as 1. Because X2 itself is the price considered here. And this type of goods, which stands for everything else other than consumer want to consume other than good 1, is known as composite good. Composite good. 2.3 deals with budget set, properties of budget set. So first one is budget line that we have already discussed. Bundles cost exactly income. That is budget line. So the term we can use for more economically is exhaust the consumer's income, which simply means equal to. That is, it is equal to the income of the consumer. Nothing left as savings. And the bundles, so this is the budget line. Okay, this is the budget line. I'm not sure I can denote this exactly, but yeah. This is the budget line. And all the bundles that lies in this budget line are the bundles that exhaust the consumer's income. And all the bundles which are below this budget line cost strictly lesser than M. Okay. Yep. So all the bundles that lies on this line exhaust or equal to M, and all below lesser than M. And what does the bundles in these two extremes denote? So if a bundle is in this extreme, okay, that is here. I'll change the highlighter color. Okay, if there is a bundle here, it means if for example, if the consumer has 5 rupees as income and the bundle is here, it means he's only spending the whole income on the good X2. Okay, so this is the line for, so X1 is denoted here and X2 is denoted here. And if the bundle is here, that means the whole income is spent by the consumer only on X2. That is income by price of X2. So M by P2 is the vertical intercept, and the same applies in the horizontal path also. M by P1. Okay. And the budget line's slope will be denoted as minus P1 by P2. And budget set, we have already gone through it. All the bundles that are affordable at the given prices and income. That is the set of all affordable consumption bundles. Okay. Now if we rearrange the equation of budget constraint, we'll get something like this. Yes, I'll try to denote it here. So the budget constraint is like this: P1 X1 plus P2 X2 for the time being we can take it as equal to, because it's a budget line, so equal to M. And in the next step what happens is that we'll take this P1 X1 this side, so it will be M minus P1 X1 then we'll take the P2 the other side, so as it is multiplied here, in the other side it will be divided with both M and P1 X1, so it comes as this, that is M by P2 minus P1 X1 by P2. Okay. So this sorry. This is the formula for a straight line with a vertical intercept of m by p2 and a slope of minus p1 by p2. And what does this formula interprets? It tells us how many units of good 2 the consumer needs to consume in order to just satisfy the budget constraint if she is consuming x1 units of good 1. Okay. That is, the whole thing denotes that how much more x2 is needed to satisfy the budget constraint if p1 x1 is given. That's it. Now this whole paragraph says about drawing a budget line. It is very easy, we have already studied it, we have already gone through it. So the vertical and horizontal intercept will be like, we'll just divide the prices of the particular good. If it's of x2, we'll divide the price of x2 with m, that is the income of the consumer, and denote it in the graph. Same applies with the vertical intercept also. Next, the slope of the budget line has a nice economic interpretation. It measures the rate at which the market is willing to substitute good 1 for good 2. Okay, so next is an important question. For example, that the consumer is going to increase her consumption of good 1 by delta x1, how much will her consumption of good 2 have to change in order to satisfy her budget constraint? Okay, so if good 1 is changing, if good 1 is x and it is changing to x01, how much more should the good 2 change to satisfy the budget constraint? This is our budget constraint. Okay, now this denotes the budget constraint when the good 1, consumption of good 1 is changed. So P1 x1 plus delta x1. So this is the changed one. And usually people get confused that the changed will be already like only positive numbers. No, it can also be negative numbers. Okay. So x1 plus delta x1 plus P2 x2 plus delta x2, that is how much to be changed of this x2, good x2. Okay, that is denoted by delta x2, and that has to be equal to m. And when we subtract this equation, that is this equation, from this equation, what we'll get is P1 x1 and P2 x2 get subtracted, then it will be, and m will be getting subtracted from m, so 0. Then we'll get P1 delta x1 plus P2 delta x2 is equal to 0, which is a really important result. That is, total value of the change in her consumption must be 0 for the budget to satisfy the budget constraint. Okay. And solving for delta x2 by delta x1 divided by delta x1, the rate at which good 2 can be substituted for good 1 while still satisfying the budget constraint gives this. And this is the slope of the budget line as we studied before. Next, the negative sign. So why does the slope has a negative sign? Because delta x1 and x2 must always have opposite signs. Right. If we gain one, we need to sacrifice one. This simply denotes the opportunity cost. Right. Okay, because we at the same time we can't, no, by sacrifice, like if we are gaining one, definitely we need to sacrifice one good. At the same time we cannot gain both the goods. Okay, So this is the reason, like both the goods only have opposite signs. So that is the reason why this slope always getting negative sign, and this just measures the opportunity cost of consuming good one. That is, in order to consume more of good one, you have to give up some consumption of good two. So that's it with 2.3. Giving up the opportunity to consume good two is the true economic cost of more good one. So this is an important question. So after the answer, you can sum up with this statement. Next, 2.4, how the budget line changes. So the budget line mainly consists of the income and prices, right? Prices of the good and income of the consumer. So when the price and income changes, set of goods that a consumer can afford also changes. So how does this impact the budget line? Let's check. First of all, an increase in the income will result in a parallel shift outward of the budget line, and decrease will impact with a parallel shift inward. See, this is how an change in income impacts the budget line. So if it is increase, it will cause a parallel shift outward, and decrease, it will cause a parallel shift inward. So this shows a parallel shift outward, because when the income increases, when we divide, like imagine the first income was 50, so imagine the first income was 50. When we divide, if the price of the good and the price of the good as 5 and not 5, 2 and 5, fine, 2 and 5. The price as 5 and 2. 2. In the first case, it will be here. This will be marked in 10, and here it will be marked in 25, right? But when the income is changed to 100, when the income is changed to 100, the prices have not changed, so it will be then marked like 100 divided by 5. It will be marked in 50. Here it was marked in 10, and here it is marked in 20. Sorry, it is 100 divided by 5, it is 20. So here it is marked in 20, and here it will be marked in 50. So 10 became 20, 25 became 50. So this income increase just brings a parallel shift outward. The same happens when it is a decrease in income. It will be a parallel shift to inward. And what if the prices change? That's also very easy. If talking of good one, if it is more expensive, the budget line will become more steeper. That is, imagine in the first case, the good one bundle stands here. That is, the good one costs 10 rupees. Then let's consider the M as, and write it, that's better. M equal to 50 in both cases. In the first case, good one cost ₹5. So 50 by 5, 10 goods can be consumed. But in the second case, when it is equal to 10, that is 50 by 10 gives only 5 units. So 5 will be marked here, right? That is, from 10 units, the consumer is moving to 5 units because of the increased price. So the budget line becomes more steeper. So here it is 10 unit. Here it is 10 units. And here it is 5 units. Why? 50 divided by 5 for good one, and this is the new price of good one. I hope you got it. And the same applies with the prices, change of prices in good 2 also. So as the consumer move from 10 units to 5 units, it become more steeper. The budget line become more steeper. And the opposite happens, the budget line becomes more flatter. Okay. And next is an important question. These are the theory questions of this chapter. What happens to the budget line when we change the price of good 1 and good 2 at the same time? Okay. Then that change have to be divided by the income. That's it. That is, so this is the budget constraint, the primary budget constraint that we have, budget line. And when the price of both increases at the same time, that is, we can denote the increase as T times, so T P1 X1 plus T P2 X2. And when we bring this T to the next side, that is, like, we can take this T outside in a bracket, then we take this T to the opposite side of, that's, yeah, we'll divide it by M then, so M by T, that's it. So here we can conclude by saying, multiplying both prices by a constant amount, T is just like dividing the same income, dividing the income by the same constant T. So itself the budget line won't change at all. Okay. So from this we can say that even if we even if a change or increase in the prices of both goods happens at the same time, the budget line won't change, because the same amount by which the goods prices are increased, it will be divided by the income of the consumer. And this has a particular name which is known as balanced inflation. It is not given in the readings, you can note it. Balanced inflation. Okay, fine. Next, we can also consider price and income changes together. This is another important part. Price and income changes together. What happens to the horizontal and vertical intercept? So here, if M decreases and P1, P2 both increase, then the intercept M by P1 and M by P2 must be both decrease. This means that the budget line will shift inward. And the slope, if price 2 increases more than price 1, it will be minus P1 by P2, decreasing in an absolute value. Okay. Then the budget line will be flatter. If price 2 increases less than price 1, the budget line will be steeper. So these are just basic things. So just go through it. Next is numeraire. So with the name, there is nothing to get more puzzled. Here we are just pegging the prices to 1. That is, when we set one of the prices to 1, as we did in this equation, here we just pegged P2 equal to M in the first equation. Okay. Here we just pegged, that is, reduced P2 equal to 1 or made P2 equal to 1. For that we will divide P2 with the whole budget line. That is P1 X1 by P2, P2 X2 by P2, so P2 get cancelled there, and m by p2. So here we pegged p2 equal to 1, and the next equation we pegged m equal to 1. Okay, that is the income is here pegged to 1. So when we divide the whole budget line with m, here all we have the denominators of m, and m by m is equal to 1. So here we got 1. Okay, so this is what numeraire means. That is, when we set the prices to 1 as we did above, we often refer to that price as numeraire price. The numeraire price is the price relative to which we are measuring the other price and income. It is occasionally done, so it will be more convenient to think of one good as being a numeraire, since there will then be no other prices to get worried of. We can just calculate, we can just take an account of one price only, right? So that's it with numeraire. The next is taxes. So what is tax? In the perspective of the consumer, tax is nothing but an amount extra to pay. So increase in prices, that's tax. That's what tax meant. And subsidy means decrease in prices. Okay. And here we study of three types of taxes and subsidies: quantity tax and quantity subsidy, ad valorem tax and ad valorem means value tax and value subsidy, then lump sum tax and lump sum subsidy. So what is quantity tax? So we are studying them specifically because they affect the budget constraint really, okay? So quantity tax. If the government imposes a quantity tax, this means that the consumer has to pay a certain amount to the government for each unit of good he purchases. And how does this affect the budget line of a consumer? As I said before, from the viewpoint of a consumer, tax is just like a higher price. Thus, a quantity tax of $T per unit of good one simply changes the price of good one from P1 to P1 plus T. Okay, so as we studied in the graph before, like how the budget line changes when a change in prices happen, here also the line become more steeper because the price increased from P1 to P1 plus T. Okay. And if we speak of this quantity subsidy, the government gives an amount to the consumer that depends on the amount of goods purchased. And how is that denoted? P1 minus S. So P1 plus T. So generally T denotes tax and S denotes subsidy. So in the case of quantity tax and quantity subsidy, P1 plus T and P1 minus S. Okay, this is nothing but an extra amount associated with the quantity of goods purchased. If it's tax, the consumer needs to pay the government, and if it's subsidy, the government will pay the consumer. That's it. And the next is value tax and value subsidy. So value tax means it's not associated with the quantity. Okay. It is associated with the value or the price of a good. Speaking of more on this, it is denoted as like this. So this symbol can be termed as tau. Okay, 1 plus tau whole multiplied by P1. Because first the consumer needs to pay the price. So I'll denote it like the price of the good may be P1. Then the consumer need to pay an amount of the value of this good. Okay, that is the amount. Maybe we can denote this tau as x for the time being because we are not having this in the PC keyboard. This tau symbol. Okay, so x p1, that can be any percent, right? It might be 2%. So if the price, for example, we can consider the good as a cloth which is priced at 100 rupees, and as the part of value tax the consumer need to pay 2% value tax. So 2% of 100. So the x will be 2% then. 2% of 100, that is 2 rupees. So in total the consumer need to pay 102 rupees for that particular cloth. That is what value tax means. And next, if talking of this value subsidy, it is like this. The same applies here. The only difference is that that particular amount is reduced from the goods price. So here we can imagine or consider the cloth itself, the example of cloth itself. The cloth is priced 100 rupees and the value subsidy for the cloth is 2%. So 2% of 100 will be reduced from this price. That is 100 minus 2% of 100, that is 2. So 100 minus 2, 98 rupees. The consumer only needs to pay 98 rupees for that particular cloth. So that is what value subsidy means. And the next one is lump sum tax and lump sum subsidy. So the budget for the same is not given in the textbook. We'll write it here. I mean the equations, not the budget. The budget line, yeah, the budget line or equation is not given in this textbook. So it is like, if M is the prize money, M is the income. So this is what a budget line looks like, right? P1 x1 plus P2 x2 is equal to M. So when it comes to this lump sum tax, irrespective of the behavior of the consumer, regardless of the quantity of goods or value of goods that he purchased, this is applied on this consumer. Okay, that is if a lump sum tax of 100 rupees means an amount of 100 will be deducted from his reduced from his income. So we can denote tax as T and subsidy as S. So if it is lump sum tax, it will be M minus T equal to P1 x1 plus P2 x2. This is same as the change in income, the impact of change in income brought in this budget line. Okay, so in the previous graph we have studied this, and the equation associated with lump sum subsidy will be M plus S equal to P1 x1 plus P2 x2. Okay, so this is the equation of lump sum tax and lump sum subsidy. So the budget line will be, in the lump sum tax, the budget line will be shifting inward because the income of the consumer is reduced, and in lump sum subsidy it will shift outward. And the difference between all this is that quantity tax and value tax tilt the budget line one way or the other depending on which good is being taxed same case as this change in the prices of good 1 or good 2. But lump sum tax is like it brings the same impact that change in income brings in a budget line. Okay, it will shift the budget line. Next is government's rationing constraints. Okay, so this means that the level of consumption of some goods is fixed to be no larger than some amount. This is very easy, nothing to be get worried of these terms. In the for example, during the time of World War II, US government had rationed certain goods like butter and meat. Okay. So first I will show the graph. So this is the budget line, and we can consider the example of butter. So the citizens, the people, consumers were only allowed to consume butter till this X1 bar. Okay. After that, they were not allowed. That's why a cut happens here. Okay. So after this particular point, the people or consumers were not allowed to consume butter. That's why the budget line just gets stopped here. Here, this part is lopped off. So if good 1 is rationed, the section of the budget set beyond the rationed quantity, so this is the rationed quality, X1 bar, will be lopped off. This part is lopped off. Doesn't work. Whatever. So the lopped off piece consists of all consumption bundles that are affordable but greater than X1 bar, which is the allowed granted quantity to be consumed. This is very important. It says that this part doesn't means that it is not it's beyond the affordability of the consumer. It simply means that it is beyond the rationed quantity. This part is also affordable for the consumer, but as it is beyond the rationed quantity, he is not allowed to have this. That's why it is lopped off. Okay. And in some cases, the beyond consumption of X1 bar is allowed, but with extra taxes. So what happens? That part will become steeper. Right. Till this much, the consumer can consume with the normal prices. So the budget line goes very decently in a flat way. But after this rationed quantity, in the X1 bar means the rationed quantity. So beyond that part, he is allowed to consume but with extra taxes. So here the price will be, so till here the price can be P1. Okay. But here the price will be P1 plus T. As the price increased, we know if the price of a good increases, the budget line becomes more steeper. So this becomes more steeper. That's it. So we're done with that part also. And next is an example food stamp program. We can just read it and leave. I'll go with that. Since the Food Stamp Act of 1964, the US federal government has provided a subsidy on food for the poor people. Okay. And the details of this program have been registered several times. So we can discuss the economic effects of this particular scheme. Before 1979, households who met certain eligibility requirements were allowed to purchase food stamps, which could then be used to purchase food at retail outlets. Okay. In January 1975, for example, a family of 4 could receive a maximum monthly allotment of $153 in food coupons by participating in this program. The price of these coupons to the household depended on the household income. Okay, so this just simply means that a particular good or a particular quantity of goods which for example cost us 100 rupees, if the household is too poor to afford that 100 rupee food products, the government, after some analyzing and dissecting, the government will select the houses with low income and will give them this coupon through which they can purchase this 100 rupee products, the products which altogether cost 100 rupees, for example. Okay, and the price of the coupon for this particular household will be determined on the basis of their income. Suppose if a household is having 1000 rupees a monthly income, they can get this coupon with with a 50 rupees or something. And if a household is having 2000 rupees monthly income, that is about that, or 2000 or 1500 rupees monthly income, those people can afford this this food coupon with 75 rupees. So in that way it was. The pre-1979 food stamp program was an ad valorem subsidy on food. The rate at which food was subsidized depended on the household income. That's what I said now. Ad valorem means value tax, okay. I mean value subsidy here. The subsidy of 4 that charged $83 for their allotment paid $1 to receive $1.84 worth of food. So this paragraph means that as the household income changed, the price at which this household can afford the food coupons worth of the same amount also changed. Okay. The way that the food stamp program affected the budget set of a household is depicted in 2.6a. Here we have measured the amount of money spent on the food on the horizontal axis and expenditures on the other goods on the vertical axis. Since we are measuring each good in terms of the money spent on it, the price of each good is automatically 1 and the budget line will therefore have a slope of -1. So this is how it looks like. So just study these graphs because it will be very important for the exam. Questions might come from this side. So budget line with food stamps means it can be simply here. No, it will be more steeper because they have got a reduced amount for the prices. I mean reduced prices for the goods. So it will be more flatter. Sorry, it will be more flatter, and without the food stamps, that is when the prices are more, it will be steeper. That is a basic concept that we have gone through with all these topics. So this is the part A. So this is pre-1979 program, and this is post-1979 program. So the difference increased. That's it. These effects led to the kind of kink. Households with higher incomes had to pay more for their allotment of food stamps. Thus the slope of the budget line would become steeper as households' income increased. In 1979, the food stamp program was modified. Instead of requiring that households purchase food stamps, they are now simply given to qualified households. Suppose that a household now receives a grant of $200 of food stamps as a month, then this means that the household can consume $200 more food per month, regardless of how much it is spending on the other goods, which implies that the budget line will shift to the right by $200. That is, the budget, as per this, the consumer can consume more for $200, so it will shift to right. He can have more for $200 without spending the money. So reduced amount and more goods. So it will be shifting to right. But the slope will not change. $1 less spent on food would mean $1 more spent on the other things. But since the household can legally sell food stamps, the maximum amount that it can spend on other goods does not change. like cannot legally sell on sell food stamps. Okay, they can just get the food products but not sell it for money. The food stamp program is effectively a lump sum subsidy. Now it is a lump sum subsidy. Before it was a value subsidy, ad valorem subsidy. Just get the difference and also those graphs. So the last part of this chapter, budget line changes. In the next chapter, we'll study, like analyze how consumer chooses the optimal consumption bundle. That is the most satisfied bundle or the budget, yeah. And that's it with this chapter. And here it is a summary. Go through all this, and we'll be having review questions which we'll do in the next coming classes. So that's it. Thank you. All the doubts will be cleared in the comment section.